Hello, and welcome to the webinar today titled How to Grow Your Email List. My name is Chelsea Cousins, and I'm one of your hosts today on our webinar. We are so excited to have you here and to discuss and learn and find out some action items about how to grow your email list. This is a great topic that has been around for a long time and is still one of the strong players in marketing. And so before we get started, just a couple of quick things. We are recording this webinar, so if you'd like to share with any of your colleagues or friends or anyone in your network or who you work with, we encourage you to do that after the webinar. We'll be sending you a follow-up email with the recording included. And the second housekeeping item is if you have any questions throughout the webinar, feel free to drop them in the chat box or the Q&A box. We know that the content today is going to spur some different ideas and questions, and if there's anything you need clarification on or you would like Josh to expand on, please drop that to us and we will answer all questions at the end of the webinar. With that, I'd like to introduce our Director of Marketing, Josh Ceneric. He is our speaker today. Josh is a wealth of information, a wealth of knowledge. He is very talented and has a know-how when it comes to digital marketing, especially with how to grow your email list. He's been helping clients in the nonprofit space do this for a lot of years. And so with that, Josh, I'm going to hand it over to you and let you get started.
Thanks so much for that, Chelsea. I'm excited that everybody is here, and I'm excited to cover this topic. As you mentioned, email is still a really strong driver, in general, the strongest driver of donations in the digital space for most organizations. And of course, when we talk to people about growing their email list, a lot of them are really struggling to grow it, or their email list is shrinking. So this is a topic that I feel is really important, and I hope you guys get a lot of value out of. What we're going to cover today are the 5 critical elements that for your content that get people to subscribe, the 3 types of content that consistently get results, as well as some real world examples so you can see how that framework all comes together. And then as an added bonus, we're going to talk a bit about personalization and how you can use that with your email growth strategy to really boost your performance and get the best results possible. So the first question is, what gets people to subscribe? A lot of times you'll see just a sign up for our newsletter or here for our ministry. That's not going to get you the results that you will get if you actually leverage your content. So the 5 critical elements are: 1, it must add value. And adding value can mean a lot of different things. It can mean, 1, it's key information that people are needing. It solves a problem for them. But it could also be just convenience. If you find that you have 5 or 10 blog posts that people are referencing frequently, putting them together in one downloadable ebook is actually adding value, because it makes it so that all of that content is in one place where people can easily share it and find it. So making sure that your content adds value is really the key component to getting people's interest, getting them to sign up in the first place. Also, it needs to be unique content, and it should be unique to your ministry, to your organization. If you have content that is widely shareable or widely shared, and everybody's posting the same content, you might find that you can still get some subscribers just based on your visibility. If you're ranked #1 in Google versus all the other people that are sharing your content, you might still grow your email list, but really you're not going to grow it at the same rate as if you have unique content that people can't find elsewhere. The third, it should be relevant. And relevant in this case is relevant to your user. So you want to look at how you're driving traffic to your website, what types of things your users are looking for. The research that we're seeing is showing really that people are becoming less and less loyal to brands and loyal to organizations, and more focused on causes and missions and impact that resonate with them. So you want to look at what people are searching for, look at their interests, and make sure that your content matches those. And then it also has to match your mission. If you're able to set up a match between your visitors' interests and your mission, then you know that you're able to target people, and the people that are being added to your list are going to be strong candidates for longer term partners and volunteers and recurring donors and any kind of support you need, if you can make that match. So you want to make sure that it matches your mission and it's relevant to your users' wants and needs. And then lastly, it has to be in the context of driving deeper engagement. I started out with one of the biggest things I hear is people are saying, oh, their email list is not growing or their email list is shrinking. We want to make sure that we're growing it. But the second thing that I hear is, oh, we only email people once a year, or I can't remember the last time we emailed it. It does you no good to grow your email list if you're not actually contacting those people through email, sending out engaging content, and nurturing them towards your greater goals. So any lead magnets that you provide, we call them lead magnets because they attract additional subscribers and leads. So any of those that you create, any content you create in that aspect, it needs to be driving towards bigger goals and needs to be viewed in terms of the bigger marketing funnel and the bigger cycle of deepening engagement and deepening connections. Next, we're going to talk about the 3 types of content that simply work. They work consistently across different organizations, and they're able to be modified to fit into really any needs. So, and why we're sticking to just 3 is because one of the cool things about content, especially on the web, is it can be anything. As far as you can imagine, you can create some kind of engaging, intriguing content. The problem is when you're given the task of creating anything or creating something that could be anything, it becomes really hard to get started and to figure out what that should be. And that's why we're actually just narrowing it down to 3 types that we see work consistently. So know that there are more options out there, and you're free to get creative. But if you're looking for a place to get started, this is where we recommend getting started. And the 3 types of content that we're talking about are a downloadable resource, 30-day challenges, and then what we call a signature resource, which is a bigger, deeper brand awareness resource. So the first one is a downloadable resource. As the name suggests, it is really usually in the form of a PDF or maybe an infographic in which you're giving information and people are able to just download it and take a look at it. And this is the easiest one to create. It goes back to adding value. So do you have information that other people don't have? Do you have reports and access to data that other people don't have? Or do you simply have content that people are already looking at and really enjoying and finding valuable that you can format in a more convenient way? This is usually 1 to 5 pages, that type of thing, if it is a written guide or something along those lines. So this one, you probably have all of the makings for that laying around in your data, on your website, and you already have all the resources you need. You just have to pull it together. The next one is the 30-day challenge, and you're probably familiar with this. It was very popularized in the fitness with 30-day exercise challenges, or the Whole30 challenge, eating healthy food for weight loss, that type of thing. But the concept has really exploded into any aspect and any industry. This one takes a little bit more work to get set up because you do need 30 days worth of stuff for people to do. for the challenge, but it's a really powerful tool because it gets people to engage with your organization, with your mission, uh, every day for 30 days. And it also comes built in with that context for the next step. The first step is to download the resource, but then the next step is to actually take action for 30 days and engage with your organization in one way or another. And then the end result is people are able to actually see the impact of what you're doing in their lives because they've experienced it for themselves for a full month. So this is a medium complexity level of setting it up because you do need a fair amount of content. You need an overall strategy, but it is really a powerful tool to get people engaged, and it's a very popular tool. Everybody loves a good 30-day challenge. And then the last one is your signature resource. And this one is the most complex that we're talking about. And it really becomes part of your DNA, part of your brand focus, and it becomes what you're known for. So, in just about any industry, and you guys can probably think right now, what's one brand where you say the name of the brand, and then your first thought is, oh, they're the people that create this report. An example of this is like Open Doors USA and the World Watch Monitor. Oh, they're the organization that creates the World Watch List that ranks Christian persecution by country. Or I spend a lot of time in the internet marketing world. If you say SEO Moz, oh, they're the people that create the ranking factor study every year, that type of thing. So this is a longer term investment, and it's an investment that has to tie very closely to your brand and your mission, so that you actually become known as the people that create this resource. It becomes part of your brand identity. So now that you have a framework for what the characteristics of the content are and what types of content to create here, I'm going to actually walk you through some real world examples so that you can see how to put this into practice. And we're going to start with downloadable resources. This is an example from WCIC. They are a radio station, and they created this guide, which is a downloadable custom playlist. It works really well with their brand because they know music, and as you can see from their tagline, they're focused on faith and hope. And what better way to create hope and create faith through music than creating a custom playlist that is all about songs that remind you of who you are in Christ, so you can be encouraged. This is a simple example. People can download it, they can listen to the music, and I recommend you download it because it's one of my favorite playlists as well. So it's one example of how it really fits their brand and encourages people to go deeper. The next one comes from NICS, which stands for Network of International Christian Schools, and they have put together these alumni stories. So the problem that they're trying to solve is people who are interested in teaching abroad, teaching internationally. They all want to know a little bit more about what they're going to experience, what it's like. And so they actually asked their alumni, their current teachers and past teachers, to share their favorite stories about what it was like to teach in an international setting. And they put it on their website. You can read all of the stories, and they've got these great pictures and great examples, so that when you're done reading them, it has the strong call to action of the next step, which is view the job openings, and you'll be writing the next story. So it leads people right through the next step. They have all of these stories available on their website, but you can also get value out of the convenience of just downloading them into one PDF. So that's a great example of using content, using your resources, and leading people through the next step towards deeper engagement. The last downloadable resource that I'll be covering is actually called Resource Cards, and it's from the Bowery Mission. They have a lot of people, a lot of users that are interested in helping out the homeless and don't necessarily know what to do that will offer the homeless people, lasting value. So they created these resource cards, which you can download, you can print them off and cut them out and carry them with you. And it tells you the bus stops and the subway stops on how to get to the Bowery Mission. It tells you what services they offer, what phone numbers to call, really all of the resources. So now if you go to the Bowery Mission and you're looking for ways to better help your neighbors in need that you see around in New York City, this offers a solution that both helps out the Bowery Mission, calls people to action, and helps the homeless people within the community. So it solves a problem, it's really aligned with the mission, and it calls people to action, to actually take action and be engaged in their community. So it's a great example of using a downloadable resource to move people towards that deeper engagement. The next example we're going to talk about are 30-day challenges, and this comes from Revive Our Hearts, and this is one of my favorite examples of 30-day challenges. They have several different options. Revive Our Hearts is, as their name implies, focused on reviving the hearts of women in particular. And so they have these challenges such as the 30-day husband encouragement challenge. And what that does is when you sign up, you'll get an email every day with encouragement, with verses to read, to think about, as well as prayers to pray about, to encourage your husband. And at the end of the 30 days, you will notice a difference in your marriage, in your attitude towards your husband, that type of thing. So this is an example where people will download this, they'll engage with the actual mission of the ministry for 30 days, and then they'll be able to identify the impact that the ministry is having because it's had it in their lives. So it's a fantastic example of not just offering value up front, but of driving people towards that deeper engagement and offering longer term value and connection to the ministry. And they also do have the whole challenge in a downloadable PDF form, so you can check it out and you don't need to put your email in. But if you do put your email in, then you get the email series every day. So they offer value with no strings attached, and then they also offer the additional daily encouragement if you'd like to go deeper. Then the last example that we're going to cover here is an example of a signature product, and this is by Child Evangelism Fellowship, and it's their Big Picture campaign. So CEF works with children globally, and they picked 25 countries to share about what it's like to be in that country, impact stories, what's happening. And you can download a PDF with a report that talks about these 25 countries, and it offers really great unique perspective on these countries. So if people are interested in missions, if they're interested in global evangelism, if they're interested in really just what's happening and a unique perspective around the globe, then they can download this report and get that information. It's also tied to an email campaign, in which each week for 25 weeks, you'll get a deeper summary in your email about that country specifically, with data about the population, about the political climate, about what's happening, and impact stories about what's going on with the missionaries there. And this is a great example of a long-term thinking, because you're engaging people for a full 25 weeks after they download it. So you have a nice long nurture program, and it really is a way to clearly display the global impact, as well as on local levels, the individual countries that CEF is a part of. All right, so now that you have a framework for creating your content, here's how you grow even faster with personalization. And the first step is really treating visitors as people, because they are people. That they often, because they're on the web, are anonymous, and so they look like numbers in your Google Analytics account, but really they're people with different desires, different ways they want to connect, and different needs. So instead of sending out a generic subscribe to our email list form on your website, you can actually look at the behavior, how engaged people are, where they're located, and what their interests are, and send them specific messages that are relevant to them, or also not show them messages. If they're already subscribed to your email list, you don't need to continue asking them to subscribe. So the first way to segment them is to really look at engagement levels. If you're brand new to the website, you don't necessarily want to get hit with a message that says, give us your email, give us your contact information. Really, you want to get a message that tells you what the organization is about. So by targeting based on engagement levels, you can actually put your message, your email, your content in front of people that are looking to go deeper, that are looking to make that connection, because they've already spent some time reading your content and learning who your organization is and what your mission is. You can also look at interest-based. With Journey, our personalization platform tool, you can look at content affinities. You can see what sections of your website people are reading, and you can give them content and messages specifically for their interests. So look at the choices that they're making on your site, look at how they're engaging with your content, and give them more content and deeper engagement based on their specific actions. You can also customize your content towards different locations. If they're in a different country, you might want to send them content that's in their native language. Or if they're near where you're having an event, you might want to offer them content that lets them engage in person, or builds a connection with another group that is associated with your organization. If they're having a Bible study or something like that, and there's one in that town, you can connect them based on where they're physically located. And then lastly, you can really remember their choices, remember their preferences, and build deeper connections with them. Even if they remain anonymous, you can continue to look at their preferences and know who they are and what they're hoping to get out of interacting with your organization. So you can build those deeper connections and build relationships that are set up to last.
Okay, thank you, Josh. That was great information. As far as questions go, one question that we have here is, I have a ton of ideas. We have a lot of content on our website that we can repurpose, but where do we start? How do we know what to start with, is the question.
Mm-hmm. The easiest way to get started is to look in your Google Analytics account, if you have Google Analytics set up, and see what's driving the most engagement currently. So if you have, say you have 5 different ideas for topics on Lead Magnet, you can actually look and see what articles on your site people are already interacting with and already searching for. Another option is within Google Analytics, if you have a site search functionality where people are putting in keywords into your website to search for specific topics, you can actually capture that information in Google Analytics, and then you'll know in their own words what people are looking for, and that'll give you a great place to start.
Okay, perfect. Another question we have here is, on average, how much time does it take to get a lead magnet up and running? And then how long should we let it run before we really review and dive into the analytics?
Yeah, so it will really depend on the complexity of the lead magnet that you're doing. A signature product, if you're looking for, something that's going to become your brand identity, that's something that will probably take several months to actually implement and set up. And then you'll want to refresh it every year and create awareness every year going forward. So that would be a fairly long project. If you're looking for something as small as a downloadable resource, if you have to write the content yourself, it could take you a week, depending on how much time you have to dedicate to it. If you already have content available that you're going to use, it might just take a designer, a couple hours to actually combine it into a downloadable PDF. So the range of the amount of time it takes to create it can be very minimal, as little as a few hours to months, depending on the complexity. As far as how long you should let it run, my recommendation would be to try to make these lead magnets as evergreen as possible. So you can let them continue to run even while you're developing new lead magnets or new content. But really, you want to gauge your testing by the amount of traffic they're getting. So if you have a new one and you're running ads to it, either through your ad grant account or through, say, Facebook, and you're getting a lot of traffic, you'll be able to look fairly quickly, like in a week or 2 weeks, and be able to see if that traffic's converting and if it's resonated with that audience. If you're not promoting it in any way and you're putting it up on your site and it's only getting a handful of visits, you'll want to let it test for considerably longer so that you have enough data to actually know how people are responding to it.
Okay, that's very helpful, Josh. Another question we have is, how do I access the data on website searches within Google Analytics? I found search terms, but it's empty. Do we need to activate something on the back end?
Yes, if you go under into your admin, and then you go under your property view and settings, there is a button to enable site search, and then you'll actually also have to put in the URL parameter that is associated with your keyword in your URL when you search. So there is a little setup. If you Google, if you're trying to set it up right now and you Google set up site search in Google Analytics, Google does have detailed documentation on how to set that up.
Great, thank you, Josh. One last question. Are there any best practices when it comes to creating a lead magnet in terms of, should it be a one-pager, designed, is just text with a nice header okay? Do you know of any best practices off the top of your head?
Really, any of those options will work. You'll want to keep in mind the 5 elements that we talked about in the beginning. Even I've seen some examples where it's just a list of 10 items and it's a checklist. These are 10 things you want to make sure you don't forget when you're packing for a vacation with kids type thing. And it's just a checklist of, like 10 words or 15 words, but people have found value in it and it's unique to the brand because they don't want to forget that and they don't want to write their own list. So it can be, really simple content, or it can be more in-depth content. The key is to add value, to make sure it's relevant to the user's wants or needs, to make sure it matches your mission, and then moves people along through that.
Okay, great. Thank you, Josh. That wraps up the questions we have for today. So